Hey guys, in this example, we've got a whole bunch of tangent lines, and we're going to be looking for the perimeter of this thing. It looks like a quadrilateral that is that has this circle inside of it. Cool. So this first one, we're going to be, well, all of them, we're going to be using that third theorem about those two tangents, boop, boop, and boop, boop, that intersect at a common endpoint. So what we learned about two tangents that intersect at a common endpoint is that they are congruent to each other. So if this length is 11.8, then this tangent is also 11.8. That's how we do it. So this tangent over here has a length of 13. At least this chunk of it is 13, which means this chunk that meets up at the common endpoint there is also going to be 13. So if they share a common endpoint, then they're going to be congruent to each other. All right, so up next, we got this dude that's 4.7 who meets up at a common endpoint with this dude who must also be 4.7. And then lastly, we got this guy who's 12.7 meeting up at a common endpoint with this tangent who must also be 12.7. So when they meet up at a common endpoint, they are congruent to each other. Should put the marks there, right? So, and then the question asks us to find the perimeter. So to find the perimeter, we know that the perimeter is the sum of all sides. So to find our perimeter, we're just going to add up all our sides. We're going to add up the 11.8s. We're going to add up the 13s. We're going to add up the 4.7s. And we're going to add up the 12.7s. All right, and whenever I add all those sides up, that's going to give me the total perimeter, which is 84.4 units, whatever units we were using. Alrighty, so that's how we do it. When they meet at a common endpoint, they are congruent to each other, and I've got to work through the whole figure just like that. Here's another example. Alright, in this example, I see these two tangents meet up at a common endpoint. So if this one's 11, then guess what? That one is also 11. Over here, I've got something wacky going on. I've got this side is 6.6, and then I've got this side that gives me the entire length as 14.5. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to think, if this is 6.6, then this piece is 6.6. So then that other piece over here on this side can be found by subtracting, taking 6.6 away from the 14.5. So 6.6 from 14.5 is 7.9. So that little magenta piece is going to be 7.9. So if that piece is 7.9, then the tangent segment that has the common endpoint boop, 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 is also going to be 7.9. So my perimeter is going to be found by adding up the two 11s, the two 7.9s, and the two 6.6s. When I add them all up, I get a total of 51 units. That's it. So this one had a little twist to it. The next one has a little twist as well. All right, it actually has two twists to it, but they're the same kind of twist. So what do we got? This piece is 13. So guess what? This piece is 13. So you can see here that The whole thing is 18.9, so I'm gonna have to do a little subtracting to find this other little chunk over here. So 18.9 minus 13 leaves me with 5.9. So this little chunk here is 5.9, which means this little chunk is 5.9, and the whole thing here is 15.5, so I'll have to do some subtracting again to find this chunk. So what do I got? 15.5 minus 5.9 leaves me with 9.6. So this chunk is 9.6. That means this chunk is also going to be 9.6. And I got all I need on the other side. I got 7.4. So this piece is also 7.4. So now I can go around the figure and I can add everything together, and I can say that my perimeter is all those colorful numbers added together. So I'm going to do that, and I'll get 71.8 units if I did it right. So finding the perimeter. I had to do a little segment addition postulate in this one. One more. All right. Same story here. Same situation. So if this whole thing is 20.7 and this little piece is 11, then I'm going to have to do some subtraction. 20.7 minus 11 leaves me with 9.7. So if that chunk is 9.7, then this chunk is 9.7 because they meet up at a common endpoint. If this piece is 11, then this piece must be 11 as well. So to find this chunk down here, I'm going to have to do some subtraction. So the whole thing is 16.8. So I'll do 16.8 minus 11. So I know that this little piece down here is going to be 5.8. So the piece that intersects it there, the common endpoint, is also going to be 5.8. So now I can find my perimeter by adding all that up. 11, 11, 9.7, and 9.7, and 5.8 and 5.8. And let's see what I get. And I get 53 units. All right, I hope you learned something. Good luck on your quiz, and you're awesome.